Okay, so making a video today on a completely different topic, which is the Lifetime ISA, otherwise known as the LISA, and why it may not be as suitable for young investors as they might believe when you look at the practicality of how it works out and also some moral issues that I have with it. So some comments straight off the bat. I'm no financial expert, and this product can be incredibly helpful to people looking to build up their deposit. I do believe that as adults, we are ultimately responsible for all of our actions, and I certainly could have educated myself better before purchasing this product. These are my reflections only, using my former 20-something-year-old self when I took out this product as a case study. It may well be that all of these things I'm going to talk about were very clearly signposted in the product. It's a subject of a completely separate deep dive as to whether institutions are/were properly signposting their products. This video is more meant to highlight what an average young investor might understand when they take one of these products out. And final points are that I am very, very aware that I am incredibly lucky to be even discussing the prospect at the moment of purchasing a property. My motivation for making this video is not to have a whine. It's that I genuinely believe there's an issue here, and I'd like to throw my 2 cents in order to help other people in any way I can. Lastly, this video and me having previously frozen all of my LISA contributions were all triggered off by reading an excellent article from moneysavingexpert.com, which I have used for this video alongside my own research, and all of which are linked below. So without further ado, let's get into it. Section 1, what is a LISA and who is it for? The LISA scheme was brought in by the government in April 2017 in order to assist young people, there's a cap of 39 years old, in either purchasing their first home, saving for retirement, or both. In this video, I'm going to focus on the purchase of a home because I think realistically that's what the majority of young people need to spend their savings on. Beyond the obvious nature of the product, government sources specifically state that the Lifetime ISA will help young people save flexibly for the long term throughout their lives, and the Lifetime ISA is designed to work with the grain of existing ISA products and will be simple for savers to use. And the various providers online emphasize that it is a government-designed product, it is aimed at first-time buyers, it is to help young people get on the property ladder, and the material you see advertised online has a lot of young people casually walking around talking about how excited they are to own their first home. So the product very much sits firmly in the government/young investors niches. How does it work? You receive a 25% contribution from the government. You can put in a maximum of £4,000 a year. So if you put in that maximum of £4,000, you will get a grand from the government. That is straight off the bat a brilliant return on investment. Beyond that, the amount you put in, which helpfully does not include the government bonus, is included within the 20k of monies annually you are allowed to make in ISA contributions, which means that all of the interest on that money is tax-free. And what's more, the interest is paid on all the monies, i.e. your contribution, plus the bonus that the government grants you, all of which is again fab. And then, which seems fair, there is a 25% penalty if you were to use the product not for what it is designed for, i.e. the purchase of a first home or retirement. So that all sounds fine. So what's the issue? Put in a nutshell, the way this is working out is that many first-time buyers who are in fact using the monies for what it was designed for, the purchase of their first home, are ending up paying the penalty and not only losing years of accrued government bonuses, but crucially also losing a proportion of the original investment that they put in. So why is this happening? Let's break it down one issue at a time. Okay, so issue number 1, you must be buying a home which is worth £450,000 or less. If you don't meet that requirement, you pay the 25% penalty. The issue with this is this cap has remained the same since the scheme was brought in 2007, meaning that as the average house price increases, you see an increasing proportion of investors falling outside of the conditions and therefore being liable to pay the penalty. According to the House Price Index, the average price of a property in the UK has increased by 33% in this time. And in London, the average property price has increased from 475,000 to 530,000 between April 2017 and August 2024, an increase of around 12%. Martin Lewis points out that this is an issue in particular which bites investors who are trying to buy, say, a flat in more expensive urban areas in the UK. He gives several statistics. In the 12 months to April 2023, the average London first-time buyer property prices were over 450,000 in 32 London boroughs, plus in some just outside of London, such as Epsom and Guildford. Outside of the southeast, in the past 5 years, average first-time buyer property prices have increased by more than 60% in some areas. This includes parts of Northern Ireland, East and West Midlands, Wales and Yorkshire. So clearly the scheme hasn't kept up with the picture in the UK realistically as to property prices. Issue number 2 is that the cap on the value of the home you can purchase is just the same whether you are purchasing it as a single person or as part of a couple. Because the only thing that counts is the overall price of the property, not how much you as an individual are contributing to it, assuming a 50-50 split in the property purchase, the property cap becomes effectively £225,000. To put this in some more context, according to the ONS and the Times, the average London salary in 2023 was around 44 grand. On a conservative multiple for mortgage affordability of 5, bearing in mind that there are multiple deals in the market at the moment for around 5.5, this means that 2 individuals currently buying in London as a couple will only be able to stay under the £450,000 cap if neither one of them exceeds at all the average salary in London, maxing out on that basis in 2023 on a house collectively worth £443,000. And now the third issue, which is the compounding factor, or the maths. You may have automatically assumed, as I certainly did, and as very recently when I called my provider, the lady on the phone also assumed and tried to reassure me that the 25% penalty effectively means losing that 25% bonus which you received from the government. But no. And I'm very aware this isn't rocket science, but this has eluded me, and this is how the maths works out. Say you put in £1,000 1 year, you get a bonus of £250, meaning your total is £1,250 in your account. You take that money out and you incur the penalty. But 25% of £1,250, I have to look down at my laptop for this, is £937.50. So for every £1,000 you put in, you lose £62.50 once the penalty's been taken into account. So let's do some more maths. If you invested from April 2017 to the end of 2024 and maxed out your LISA contributions each year, 8 years of £4,000 a year, you would lose A, 8 grand of bonuses you've accrued during that time, and B, £2,000 of your own earned money. In other words, the total in your account, including bonus, would be £40,000, and when you took it out after penalty, you would have only £30,000. It was reading this maths in the moneysavingexpert.com article which prompted me to immediately stop my contributions. And I think it was telling that it took somebody explaining this in an article with a case study in order for me to clock that. As Martin Lewis noted, speaking about the loss of your original investment, the money you've put in, that fine goes to the state. Now, it seems to me that that is just plain wrong. What I'm asking the Chancellor to do is one of 2 things, or perhaps both. The simple one would be if someone's buying the property as a first-time buyer above $450,000, just wipe the excess penalty, which actually means you have a 20% penalty. So at least people get the money back that they put in. So putting all these factors together, what does this mean for the first-time buyer? It adds up, in my eyes, to 2 things. You have a product with a very high possible return rate, 25%. amazing. But you are effectively taking a gamble on your life in between taking out the product and using it, working out in the exact right way, which will mean that you are able to realize that return. Will you meet someone romantically and want to set up a home? Are you managing to achieve home ownership through purchasing with a friend or with a relative? Have you been delayed from purchasing a home for multiple other reasons? You've been through difficult periods in your life, you've been suffering from mental health issues, maybe there's been a breakdown of a relationship, and in the time that that has been happening, your salary has creeped up just a little higher than it was, taking you just outside of the thresholds. Not to mention that you may well have delayed purchasing a home during the lockdowns due to the uncertainty in that period. The flip side of all of that is, if you are in the boat of having to incur the penalty, had you chosen another product, your money would have been working better for you over that period of time. Not to mention the nasty shock when it comes to personal financial planning, when you realise for various reasons that you are going to incur the penalty and you have thousands of pounds less in your bank account than you thought you had. The second point is that on top of the loss of any return is the loss of your actual earned monies. The very real risk is that after years of saving, the only thing you will have achieved is to effectively pay the government an additional tax. To drive this home, Martin Lewis gives the following figures from November 2023. In total, Leaser savers have been charged 126.8 million, approximately 108.3 million of government bonuses, and approximately 18.5 million of their own cash to access their savings since April 2017. And in the tax year alone, 2022-2023, savers were fined approximately 9.4 million. Now I'm going to wrap this up into why I have a real problem with all of this. I believe that there's a thought process which goes on in people's minds when they take out a product which says it is government backed. There is a certain level of trust and certain assumptions which are made that everything would be in line and there would be no obvious issues or pitfalls that you had not thought of. For instance, although you may never specifically have thought of this, that there wouldn't be an issue such as the maximum cap on the property never changing in 8 years. I also don't think that this target demographic will think very carefully in terms of future planning, i.e. sitting down and going through the thought process, what will my life look like in 5-10 years? How likely is it that XYZ factors will come into play and therefore I will be able to realise my investment, or I won't be able to realise it and I'll lose money in multiple ways? But most importantly, and I think most scandalously, these investors will not be considering the possibility that they may actually lose some of their original money, and certainly not if they do what they were supposed to do with the product, which is to purchase their first home. And finally, the idea that people's savings towards their first home, especially at a time when it's very difficult to purchase your first home, going into government hands makes me, frankly, a little queasy. Martin Lewis has done a wonderful job of trying to press this issue on behalf of first-time buyers. He contacted the then Chancellor at the beginning of 2024. Martin Lewis has said that leaves the Leaser a dead duck product for many who were encouraged by the government to open them. To prevent this, we are renewing our calls on the government to allow savers using Leaser money to buy a home that's now over the limit to withdraw it without penalty immediately. In the longer term, we'd like to see the £450,000 Leaser limit raised to catch up with average property prices and then index link the threshold thereafter. I think there should be some kind of compensation scheme for those who've already taken out the Leaser in order to buy their first home and have incurred a penalty. I also think that there should be some kind of compensation for those who have taken out the Leaser for purposes other than buying their first home and have lost their original money as a result, because I don't think there are any circumstances under which it's right for the government to recoup some of that original investment from the purchaser. And there are many, many circumstances in which a young person may be obliged to access their savings apart from the plan of buying their first home, because there are lots of things that can go wrong in life, and I don't think it's fair in those circumstances that their original money should be taken by the government. Lastly, I think there needs to be some kind of allowance made or adjustment to the scheme made to take into account people purchasing homes as couples. So that sums up my video on leases, and I really hope this will be helpful to somebody. As it stands, there haven't been any mentions of any changes to the leaser scheme in the most recent budget, so there isn't anything on the immediate horizon, but I hope that at some point this issue is going to be rectified, and I hope you enjoyed that video. Lots of love, look after yourselves. Mwah!